Howdy y'all, and welcome back to the channel. This is Dining Room Dance Party, your favorite fashion slash sometimes other yapper. We are clearly in a new location. This is my new room. It is currently under construction, but it's turning out really well. Today, we're going to be talking about a very exciting topic that doesn't have to do specifically with fashion, but that is taste. And taste, I think, is one of the most important things to really develop in a person. That person, being yourself. Because taste influences not only your sense of fashion, right? Like what you like to wear, but it influences everything else. For example, your interior design style, how you like to decorate your room, the things you like to read, just all that stuff. But before we get into the video, I do have to premise this by apologizing in advance and saying that if the mood or tone of this video feels a little bit somber today, I did just receive a call from my parents about, I don't know, an hour ago, saying that they're going to probably put down my childhood dog right now. So I already mourned that a little bit, but for now, this is, my job. I do this for a living and I do really enjoy doing this. And so I have kind of pushed those feelings as far back in my mind as I could for now. And, we'll table those for later. So unfortunately, I might not be as fun or exciting as I normally am, but that is okay. That's life. That's being human. We still have things that we need to take care of, even in the face of adversity or grief. And so that is what we're going to do today. And I hope that you still enjoy the video and get a lot out of it anyways, because I did spend a lot of time prepping and preparing, and that's the same word twice, but I think that we have a lot of interesting and fun stuff to talk about. This video will be divided into 3 sections. The first is going to be what is taste? The second will be why would you build taste? And the third is going to be how do you build taste? Now, I'll be honest, the first 2 sections are very, similar. There's a lot of overlap, but that being said, I still felt like these were the 3 main points of just, all the research that I kind of put into this. So let's start with what is taste. I think it's important to define taste before we obviously delve into how to build it, because how do you even build something that you don't, how do you build something if you don't know what it is, right? Now, I think that there is a lot of different definitions of taste, but for the purpose of this video, I think the way that I'm going to define it, and I'm just going to read it because it's easier for me to do that, to read what I wrote rather than, guess it. Taste is a personally refined and cultivated understanding of what truly resonates with you. Oh, that's lovely. A fire alarm's going off somewhere. All right, this has been going on for like 10 minutes of waiting. I'm just gonna close my window. We'll take slightly worse lighting in compensation for the ability to hear, but basically in simple terms, taste is just whether you like something or not. And this was absolutely beautifully worded in this TikTok video that I saw online, actually while I was researching this. Really funny, I wasn't even looking for a video. This just happened to pop up on my For You page. And so I'll go ahead and post that just so you can see that little tidbit.
And your taste is essentially whether you like an item or an outfit or not. Taste is independent from fashion. If you like something, it's your taste.
And something that this creator said in her video was that you do not need to know why you do or don't like something to have taste. I think that that's a very important characteristic of taste, because sometimes taste is just knowing that something is off about a certain thing in your opinion, right? There's just something you don't like and maybe you can't quite put your finger on it, but you just know something in there doesn't quite resonate with you. Or maybe everything does. You can just see something and know, hey, this is perfect. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about this thing, but I just know that I love this in every aspect. And your cultivated taste is what leads you to these conclusions, whether you are able to explain them or whether you're not able to explain them. And this can take a lot of time to develop to where to the point where it becomes natural, right? And some people are going to be more naturally inclined towards this than others. Some people are better at just putting their thoughts and their feelings into words. And to be completely frank, you can develop taste over time. It is something that you can work on. But the unfortunate part is I'd say that a lot of the people with the best taste, I feel like it's something that you start learning from when you're young and impressionable. And I feel like it really starts with a very open view of the world, right? Not being too, hey, this is what's cool, this isn't, but kind of being very exploratory. So if you're kind of a little bit further down that path, I'd say that's one of the first, well, we'll get into this a little bit more later, but it just feels relevant to say now. I'd say one of the first things to do is to just be more open. The people with the most taste, I just feel like are the most open to new new things, right? Anyways, that's part of the definition, but we'll get more into that later. A couple examples of taste just to like show like, you know, what it is. I would say that there is a similar movement in individuals who like streetwear and their choices of home decor, and I'll throw up some examples on the screen while I'm talking about this. But if you think about it, streetwear has kind of always been about wearing the coolest pieces from the most hype brands, right? Think of like the Hypebeast era in the 2010s. Personally, I think that modern streetwear is just basically evolved from the Hypebeast era, but that's another topic for another video for another time. Anyways, if you look at a lot of the people like dwelling in these places, or this like where a lot of these streetwear enthusiasts are dwelling, it all matches up with this, right? It's all about displaying their cool pieces, mainly their clothes, right? A lot of them have their clothes like literally on display, and then also getting very loud, like bold decor that matches up to this kind of very loud, bold streetwear aesthetic that's happening right now. For example, I don't know what the name of this is. I know it has a famous name, but that like flower rug that everybody seems to have on their floor, that's a signal to other streetwear lovers that the person with the rug is cool and it knows what's popular or what's trending. Or I don't know how much this specific rug costs, but sometimes stuff like that can even be a signal of how much money that they have, or, you know, or just like flexing the amount of money that they can spend on an item just to put in their room. Because that's also been a big part of streetwear, right? Is getting these really expensive pieces to say, hey, I have a lot of money and I can spend it on these pieces. And I don't want to distill it down to just that, right? There's so much more depth to it than just that. But that is, I mean, I think it's unarguable that that is a large part of the streetwear and the earlier Hypebeast movement. So oftentimes a lot of the places where these people live, these people, I'm saying it like that, that's the wrong way to phrase it. Sorry, let me throw that out. A lot of the times where like these streetwear enthusiasts live, it's very maximalist and it's loud. And I think that's one of the points of streetwear currently. If you look at a lot of streetwear outfits, it's to be loud and it's to throw on as many layers and as many things. It's just to kind of flex your stuff a little bit and to just say like, hey, I have all of this cool trending stuff. I know what's cool and trending. And it looks like the fire alarm's gone, so we can reopen the window. See, it feels just so much more natural in here, doesn't it? I think another phenomenal, if not maybe my favorite example of taste is Emma Chamberlain. You can tell that she has taste because her whole life is very consistent. And I personally didn't grow up watching Emma Chamberlain, but just from like looking at the things that she's doing in the past few years, her social media, her style, her interior design style, like her house decor, it all aligns and matches up, right? If Emma Chamberlain lived in a millennial like grayish style house, you'd say there's something wrong. Like something about her life is not consistent, right? It wouldn't be consistent with her style or her personality. I think she has a fun, loud, colorful, expressive personality. And I think she's toned it back a lot in recent years. I think that just kind of comes with age and maturity, right? But I think that perfectly aligns with her choice in home decor, which kind of mirrors her like colorful, quirky, fun personality that I think everyone kind of knows and loves her for. Again, I don't personally know too much about Emma Chamberlain, but this is the vibe that I get from her and just watching some of her stuff recently, seeing some of her fashion and the looks that she puts together. And I think that her haircut recently is a great example of this too, right? I think her whole life just feels very consistent. And I think that that's a great hallmark of somebody who has spent time refining their taste. And obviously she's still young, and so she's, you know, not as far along the path as somebody like who's, you know, farther along, who's probably older, but taste develops at different rates. And I think that she's pretty far along and maybe already, I'd say almost there, and just completely nailing her taste. And now it's just the process of just refining it just little by little for the rest of her life. Another great example of this is Daniel Simmons. He's a mutual of mine and he's a really cool, nice guy. I think that he exemplifies taste very well because he loves a clean, minimalist design, and you can see that in literally every aspect of his life. His personal style is very minimalist, clean. His clothing brand, the clothes that he produces, is very minimalist, clean, like great quality. Even his social media, like the videos that he films, his background is very clean, very minimal. I obviously am a little bit more cluttered. I have a few more things, and this isn't even like all that it's going to be, right? The background's going to get continually crazy. If you see my last videos, my last background was wild and insane and colorful, and just there was so much going on. And I think that that's a good reflection of me and my personality and my taste. But going back to Daniel Simmons, you know, all of the things that he does mold and fit together very well because that's who he is and that's what his taste is. Everything that he does is indicative of that, right? He likes clean and classy. If you were suddenly to like take Daniel Simmons and drop him into one of like the streetwear houses that I was referencing earlier, you'd be confused. Something would feel off. You'd say, hey, something here doesn't really feel right. Even if you couldn't tell what it was, you just know, hey, something here isn't consistent. The last, I'd say, great hallmark of taste that I want to reference, right, right now is Rick Rubin. He's kind of like renowned for his taste. I'm pretty sure it's Rick Rubin. Hopefully I didn't write a different Rick down. Now that I think about it, I don't know if I got the right Rick, but the music Rick Rubin, assuming that's the right Rick, I don't know. Anyways, he's stated in interviews before that like he actually doesn't really know anything about like music theory really or music or anything. Like people just pay him incredible amounts of money literally just for his taste in music.
Do you play instruments?
Barely.
Do you know how to work a soundboard?
No. I have no technical ability, and I know nothing about music.
You must know something.
Well, I know what I like and what I don't like, and I'm decisive about what I like and what I don't like.
So what are you being paid for?
The confidence that I have in my taste and my ability to express what I feel has proven helpful for artists.
Literally just for his ability to listen to a song and say, that's good or that's bad. He just knows what's cool or what he likes, and that's important. It's just a person who knows, hey, this is a yes for me or this is a no for me. That's really huge. So hopefully that defines taste just a little bit. Now we're gonna move into why you should develop taste. And again, I said there was a little bit of overlap with the first section because I think that defining it really kind of does explain a little bit why. Like I feel like you should already be able to tell a little bit, like just listening to this, how I described it, of like, oh, I understand why I might need taste. But just to make it plain and clear for everybody to understand, I think one of the main reasons that you should really develop your own sense of taste is because it's the foundation for great personal style, your design choices, even your creative work, right? Like I'm a photographer and my sense of taste really defines the types of photos that I take. And it's funny because as tastes change, all of that changes as well. The photos that I used to take were completely different than the photos that I take now. And I think that just goes to show that like tastes evolve, and that's a great, wonderful thing. Things change. Honestly, unfortunately, sometimes people don't like that because if you see that in musical artists a lot, right? Music artists will release a lot of music that people love, and then their next album will be wildly different a few years later, and people will say, hey, I don't understand why you're doing this. This isn't what I know you for. This isn't what I like. But what they fail to realize is that behind the scenes, that music artist has spent a few years defining and cultivating and refining their taste, and sometimes that forces them to change and it forces them in a different direction. And that's a great thing. It shows that you're growing and learning. Not only does taste really help you in kind of all those creative areas, but it also helps you to curate and not just consume. And in a world, in a society that emphasizes so much overconsumption, I think that that's really, really important, is being able to look at something and say, that's a definite yes or that's a definite no, not just going and mindlessly buying stuff. I think that this crazy consumption trend is really brutal, and it's tough because it's kind of almost my job in a way. Social media, especially the fashion space, really highlights overconsumption and the ability to just gain more and more and more and get the newest and the latest thing. And I've definitely been victim to that. Like in no way have I been perfect on that at all, but I think that it's important to grow and to realize that, hey, consumption, overconsumption, like a healthy amount of consumption, a healthy amount of really anything is, well, I guess by definition healthy, but a healthy amount of consumption is a good thing, right? But it's when we get into the overconsumption territory that the fashion industry really pushes, because let's be real, it's the greed at the top of people just saying, hey, we want more money. Hey, the shareholders need to be happier. We need to please the shareholders. What about the shareholders? Think about the shareholders. But what taste helps you to do is to not overconsume. It helps you to really curate and grab things that you really love. And lastly, a very well-developed sense of taste. It helps you, kind of like I said earlier in the definition, this is kind of that overlap, but it helps you to stay true to yourself, and it helps you to be to build a cohesive life and a cohesive image, or more so than that, a cohesive identity, right? When people think of, I'll just use myself real quick for an example. When people think of me in my room, they would say that, hey, I match up with this. My identity is consistent in my personality, the way I act, the clothes that I choose to put on, the interior design choices I make, the hobbies that I pick up, just the things, my creative choices, right? Well, I mean, I guess actually that's kind of subjective, isn't it? If it's important to build a cohesive identity, I think that it personally is, but I'm curious to hear what the argument against that would be, because I actually didn't even think about that till now. I wonder what the argument against that would be. That's food for thought, right? What does it matter if you need to build a cohesive identity? I think it does, but again, I think that maybe that's a little bit subjective, or more likely, I just haven't put enough thought into it. Either way, I digress. Let's move on. Like I said, that section was a little bit short, but now we're gonna move on to how to build taste. Now that we kind of know a little bit what taste is and why it's an important thing, why we should develop it, the only logical next step is how do we build taste? I know why I need it, and that's all great and dandy, but what do I do to actually get there? What do I do to actually get to the place that Emma Chamberlain is at, or all these people that I see online are at? As I kind of said earlier in the video, that we, the thing we're gonna come back to, the first step to building taste is exposure. And it's exposure with an open mind specifically. You need to expose yourself to new things and to new ideas, just new everything. And this can be really scary, but I think it's a really good reason why American culture is really rich. And a lot of people are going to disagree with that. I know that's fine. You can disagree with that if you want. But in my view of America, having grown up and lived here and visited a lot of the states, I've been all over the country. I've road tripped, I've flown, I've been to a lot of different places. I don't think that you can argue the fact that LA is completely different from New Orleans, which is completely different from upstate New York, which is completely different from Salt Lake City, Utah. All of these places are wildly different. And I think that one of the main reasons for that is that America is built off of immigrants and immigration. All of the people who immigrated over the course of decades and a couple centuries brought their own cultures, which in turn exposed all the other people to new ideas and new ways of thinking. And that in turn leads to a very rich culture. And that's not evident everywhere. There's places in America that I'd say don't have a lot of really deep, rich culture, but then there's places in America that are so deep and so rich in culture. I mean, that's why America's nickname is the melting pot. Think of like New York, for example. There's so many cultures in New York that blend together at once. And I know a lot of people nowadays are talking about the gentrification of New York and how that's kind of disappearing, which is a bummer. I mean, not even just a bummer, it's egregious, honestly. It's really terrible, because that's, in my opinion, one of the coolest things about New York is the culture and the diversity and just just that. I don't really think there's many cities on earth that even match New York in that respect. And the ones that do are only really like that because of the immigrant cultures that city may have adopted over the course of decades. For example, just to prove the contrary, right? When you think of Paris, you think of Parisian French culture. You don't think of Latino culture. You don't think of Japanese culture or anything else really. You think of France, right? And in the most egregious, extreme sense, you think of a French person with a cigarette, a beret, and a bagel standing in front of the Eiffel Tower being snooty. And I love Paris and I love the French people. They're wonderful. But like, that's the stereotypical picture of France. Why? Well, that's because Paris is in France. And this applies to most major cities, I'd say, around the world. Not all of them, of course, but a lot of them are, this applies very heavily. It's just mainly because they're a part of whatever, or they're made up of whatever country there's a part of citizens. On the other hand, when you think of New York, you think of Dominicans, you think of the Chinese, the Italians, the African Americans, and so many other cultures that live there. Like, if you were to think of a person from New York, it'd be hard to just picture one person. There's like kind of a plethora. And again, maybe nowadays in recent times, it might be a little bit easier for you to narrow that down. But just historically looking at it, it'd be hard to narrow down New York into just a singular face. And as a result of that, some of the people with the most exciting sense of taste in the world visit New York. It's a hub for creativity and fashion and the arts for a reason, right? And all of this, all the culture, everything there, that's just constant exposure to new ideas. It's constant exposure to new. That means watch a new movie that you might not have wanted to watch, read a new book that maybe you might not have wanted, go to an art museum and visit an exhibit that maybe you weren't thinking about doing, and most importantly, talk to new people. And I know that this is so scary, so if that is, then just visit some forums online or talk to people online. It doesn't have to be in person, although I think the best way is obviously going to be in person, but just talk to and meet new people. We're kind of like a culmination or a conglomeration of everything around us that influences us. It's really hard to not be influenced by things around us. The person sitting on the other end of the coffee shop from you might have a completely different view of the world, a completely different upbringing, a completely different just view on everything than you do, and you'll never know that, and you'll never experience that unless you talk to them. And for all you know, their experience of the world might really shake you up, and it might really rock you, and might really change the way that you view the world, or view creativity, or view even yourself, or anything really. You never even know. There's so much possibility there. Bottom line, expose yourself to new things and have an open mind. That's the other important part of this, and I don't think that I really need to delve into that a lot, but genuinely be open to new ideas, be open to new things, be open to liking things that you might not think that you like. Don't go into the mindset with, or don't go into it with the mindset, I'm not gonna like this. Go into the mindset, hey, I'm going to like this. And if you don't, then you don't. But it's better to go in saying, hey, I'm going to like this, because you're really gonna give it a more fair and accurate shot in that way, rather than going in pessimistically, you know? Another great way to build taste is to buy from a lot of different places. And that can be in any kind of respect, right? Whether that's interior design or whatever. It's actually, speaking specifically of interior design, it's doing things like not buying matching sets, but buying individual pieces that are cohesive and work really well together. I think that that's a great thing in interior design, which I'm only recently getting into and really loving. But specifically in fashion, because, you know, that's what I know a little bit more about, and that's what I'm a little bit more known for. That's buying from a lot of different stores, not just the same, not just walking into like Acne Studios or something. Whoa, that got really dark. But it's not just like walking into Acne Studios and only buying from Acne Studios, or walking to Margiela and only buying Margiela. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like, people enjoy different things for different reasons, and sometimes a brand may resonate more with you, but it's a lot more powerful and it says a lot more about your taste, and it helps you to refine your taste a lot more when you are mixing and matching pieces from all over, and not even just designer, but secondhand specifically. Buying secondhand will be infinitely better because it forces you to curate, it forces you to think intentionally about the pieces that you're getting, and it forces you to think how they're going to mesh with your closet and whether or not they fit with you and your lifestyle and what you like. Because you can buy a full outfit from any designer store and it's probably going to look good together, because that is the taste and that is a vision of another person or a creative director or a full team, right? That's a conglomeration of their taste. So of course it's going to be naturally cohesive, it's going to look good together. But when you buy secondhand, first of all, not only is it sustainable and great for the environment, and it doesn't emphasize that overconsumption like we talked about earlier in the video, but it forces you to have to put your own taste on display. And that's so uncomfortable at first. I understand that might be scary, but taste doesn't happen in a few seconds. It happens over the course of a lifetime. To be completely honest, you never even really reach the end, because like I said, tastes change, and that's a constantly changing journey. Just as a person constantly changes and grows and develops over the course of their whole life, your taste is going to do the same thing. So I don't even think that you should look at it as a starting point and an ending point. I think that you should just look at it as a big old circle and you're just in the middle of it, right? Your taste is just this big old part of you, and you're just there developing, and it's happening. It's not, I don't want you to think of it as a linear thing, like, hey, one day I'll get to the point where I have great taste. It's just, no, this is, you have a sense of taste right now. Even if you haven't spent the time to really cultivate or refine it, you have a sense of taste. And it's important to realize that, and realize that you don't need to have a start and an end point. There is no end goal. It's just, you're developing it while you're living. Another great way to develop taste is to commit to the hard things, especially in a day and age that emphasizes instant gratification, emphasizes taking the easy way out, right? We have things like DoorDash and Uber and Amazon, which, you know, do serve purposes, and they can be very helpful, useful tools used correctly, but they do emphasize taking the easy, like, quick way out. And because of that, in this day and age, like, we never really want to do things that take time, that take hard work. But the things that do take time and hard work, those are the things that really define your taste and really define you. And they're the things that really make you an individual and make you recognizable as a person and not just a gray blob, like that one episode of Fairly Odd Parents, right? All right, the window's got to close again. These dogs have been barking for, again, like 10 solid minutes. Going back to the video and the poor lighting, committing to the hard things is really important, right? If you like for example, my room, I think, is a great example of that. My walls, like doing my walls took me like a full week to do. Part of that was because I was a little lazy and did kind of take my time, but I did do them at the end of the day. And I think it speaks a lot about me and my tastes and just the lengths that I'm willing to go to make a space feel like me and to feel like home. I repainted my entire room. All of these are plywood sheets from Home Depot that I stained by hand and then hung as well on the wall with screws. I also added trim around all the borders, and that took me a long time, but it really feels like a space that I love and a space that's lively and lived in and just wonderful for me. And people come into my room all the time and are like, wow, like, I love what you've done with your room, right? Like, it just looks like you. It's just fun. It's inviting. It's cozy. And that's how I like to feel as a person. I like to feel fun and loud and inviting and exciting and just fun to look at, maybe. Like, I exemplified that through my fashion. And all of this required me to literally sleep in my living room for a week, but it was was so worth it, and I think it really speaks to who I am and what I like. So commit to the hard things because they take time, and as much as that sucks in the moment, if you eventually you get to the other side of that and you think, wow, this was so worth it, I'm so glad, and eventually you kind of forget like the bad parts of it, and it's just wow, and then you just get to enjoy the work that you put in, right? Another thing that can really help define your taste is reading, and there's been a very big renaissance lately of reading and picking up books again, and I think that that's absolutely great and it's wonderful. And I think reading helps you a lot because it really forces you to use your imagination. And I know there's been studies that not everybody reads the same way, like, or not everybody even thinks the same way, where like some people think in pictures, some people are able to read words on a page and then create the entire scene in their mind. And that's personally the way that I read. And for me personally, reading really helps to jog that imagination because I get to picture and imagine this entire world that I'm reading. And while the page might describe it one way, I might picture that and create a completely different world than the person next to me. And both of those help to strengthen our brains and our imaginations. And it helps to build those synapses that really allow your brain to think and be creative and to just create, right? By imagining things, that is the act of your brain creating. And again, this isn't the same way that everybody thinks, but even if you don't think that way, I still think it's just a very, very healthy exercise. And again, it's kind of a combination of everything that I said. It exposes you to new ideas, and at the same time, it also helps you to be imaginative, and it helps you to not buy things from a lot of different places, but it helps you to collect different ideas from a lot of different authors, a lot of different, just life experiences, just things like that, you know? And the dogs are done. I guess they really just didn't like my point about reading. The last way that I would say is a great way, and maybe even one of the best ways to help build your taste is, and stay with me on this because you're not gonna like it, but it's to embrace boredom. And boredom, I know, can be one of the worst things on the planet. I avoid boredom like the plague, just like so many other people do, because boredom is just that. It's boredom, it's being bored. But oftentimes the best ideas that you can have, the most creative ideas that you can have are in times of boredom, when you're not being influenced by anything around you. You're not taking in social media swipes and what this person thinks, but it's your own brain using, again, your taste, the culmination of all the thoughts, all the things you've done through your life. And it's letting that fly free and letting your brain kind of be the front runner for that, and letting your brain and your imagination kind of just roam free, run wild. It's really the only time, like during boredom, it's really the only time that you're truly allowed to have your own taste and exercise your own taste as just you, and not as a result of all the things around you distracting you or having input. It's the time that you have all the input and nothing else does, because when you're bored, it's because there's nothing else happening around you. It's because you're kind of trapped within your own mind. And that is the perfect time to be creative and to let your tastes and your creativity and your imagination just fly and run wild and run free. The best ideas I've ever had in my life have been during times of being bored and just sitting there and staring at my ceiling, or like late at night, just laying in bed, being bored, thinking I can't sleep, just looking at the ceiling, having absolutely nothing to do. And instead of going on my phone, I'll sit there and think, man, I wonder, sometimes your mind just wanders to some things naturally. And the more you do this, I think the more natural it is for your mind to wander to these things. But sometimes I'll sit there and I'll just think about different outfits that I could put together from my closet. I'll just think about different photography that I've seen, just maybe different shoot ideas that I could do. And there's just so many, it's not even worth saying, because there's just so many different avenues and routes that your brain can go through. And it doesn't even have to be creative. Sometimes it could just be thinking up a fun little story or just remembering something funny. It's just allowing your brain to do that mental exercise and to jump that mental hurdle, essentially allowing it to exercise, right? Your brain needs to exercise. It needs to be able to stimulate itself rather than just have everything else around it being like inputting into it, if that makes sense. Sorry, I'm kind of butchering this word because I didn't really script this part out at all. In fact, I don't really even need my computer right now. All that to say that boredom, I think, is one of the most important ways to build your taste. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not sure I did a phenomenal job explaining that last point, but it was more passion than really script, if anything. Not that I really normally do script my videos. Normally it's just one bullet point or two bullet points or something like that. But either way, I hope that made sense for y'all, because I know that I was a little floundering through it. But like I said earlier in the video, my thoughts are a little bit all over the place. Either way, I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic, your favorite ways to build taste, maybe the reason why you think taste is important, maybe some of your favorite people with taste, or your, wait, how do you say that? Maybe your favorite sense, Maybe the people with your favorite sense of taste. I guess that's kind of a way to phrase it. I would love to hear all of that from y'all. It's always exciting to discuss and to talk. And again, this is a great way to help do that, is to discuss with people in comment sections, because all of y'all are here for a reason, and you're all looking for the same things. And it's great to discuss. Like I said earlier, if you're too afraid to discuss in person, sometimes discussing online through just a thread is a great way to expand your horizons and to expose yourself to new ideas, new ways of thinking, right? All to say, I love y'all so much. I am so thankful for each and every one of you, and I'm so blessed to be able to do this. I'm excited to do this from a new room, a new location. It just feels fresh and new, and a great start. And so yeah, I just wanted to say thank y'all for everything. I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to see you in the next one. But until that one, I love you so much. I'll see you in the next one, and deuces.